So why aren't they insured? And there are two versions of this question. One is why aren't they buying insurance in the market? And the other is why aren't they buying, if they don't buy insurance, they can still do something else, which is one way to get insurance is for us, all of us, to just pool together. The government doesn't have to do anything. The market doesn't have to do anything. We all live in the same village. We can all get together, and we can all adopt the rule which says that if any of us loses 50% of their income, we'll all pay them 1% of our income. We could adopt that rule, right? And that would make everybody, would insure everybody, because there are like 50 of us in this room. We lose a little bit of, if I lose 50% of income, all of you give me 1% of your incomes, and I'm okay. So you can insure me. We don't need a market to do it. We can just do it at the community level. Yeah.
The significant limitation of that is the fact that you're not diversifying across like a larger geographical area, where presumably like a bad weather condition.
Absolutely, but we should at least do that. The fact is that people don't seem to have, they have seemed to have limited insurance even from their friends.
But wouldn't that, could that potentially open you up to huge exposure as an individual?
Why?
In the sense that like I mean, I guess if everybody gets hit equally, then even if you have a really bad year, but if everybody has a bad year, then you wouldn't like require.
You can adopt a rule which basically says, let's take the average income of everybody, and then those who get more than average in that given year, give a little bit to the ones who get less than average. You can always do that. So in some sense, it's a puzzle. Why don't they buy it from the market? Why don't they buy it from each other? And there's been a lot of hype in this area, and people have been, like Forbes magazine had this issue where they said the insurance for the poor is an unpenetrated natural market. And a lot of microfinance institutions have been talking about the next microcredit revolution is microinsurance. So they're going to provide insurance to people. But in fact, we don't see very much insurance being supplied or demanded. Now, insurance is difficult for a variety of reasons. Does anybody know what moral hazard is?
Yeah, moral hazard is just the concept that, and I guess it can be best illustrated through the example. Like if there was huge concerns about moral hazard about bailing out the banks because it could encourage banking institutions in the future to act more recklessly because there's this implicit guarantee of the backstops that happened once before.
Right. So one problem with insurance, but this doesn't explain why people don't want it. It just explains why it could be expensive. Is that if I offer insurance to you and I say that I'll take care of you whenever your income falls, your incentive to stay home goes up a lot. That's moral hazard. What's adverse selection?
You're withdrawing those with the high risk.
Yeah. So the other worry is that you tend to draw in the people. So if I offer people the option of, I'm going to, whenever your income falls, I'll take care of you, I might only get the people whose income is already, they know their income is going to fall, come and join that scheme. That's adverse selection. So we have both of those. And then there's outright fraud, because people might claim their income has fallen, but in fact their income hasn't fallen. How do I measure that? So it's expensive to deliver. That's a given, but nevertheless, the reason why, so you might think that, but you would imagine that at least some forms of insurance should exist. One is catastrophic health insurance. Like you were in a traffic accident. Nobody gets into a traffic accident on purpose. Very little moral hazard. Why isn't there insurance for that at least? Another one is weather insurance. I don't control the weather. So, there's no moral hazard or adverse selection. I don't control the weather. The weather is what it is. So why don't I just, if you say that, why don't we get lots of markets for rainfall insurance? When the rain falls, you when the rainfall is below some cutoff, I pay you money, otherwise you pay me money. So we would at least expect to see these kinds of insurance. It's difficult to have like more complex insurance. Maybe there's some fraud or something. But this kind of insurance, why don't we see more of it in the world? So I think, so this is a sort of what we're beginning to understand. So there was a huge hype. Like 5 years ago, everybody in the world was talking about how the next, there's going to be a revolution in microinsurance. And then the revolution kind of never happened. In fact, it was kind of, if you like, we worked with a microfinance organization to offer insurance. And after about a year, they basically said, look, guys, we can't do this. We're losing clients every day. Because they were forcing their clients to buy insurance. The way you avoid adverse selection is by forcing people to buy it, right? You don't want to have people have choice. Otherwise, only the sick people will buy health insurance. They were forcing all their clients to buy health insurance. As a result, all their clients were deserting them. So they basically canceled the program. So nobody seems to want insurance. Now, it's really, I don't think people have fully understood what's going on there. I certainly don't. I mean, like, I think part of it is people don't understand insurance. So part of the problem is that people think, oh, I'm giving you money, and if I don't use this service, you should give me the money back. So, the idea that I'm giving you something, see, for most of us, the bizarre thing about insurance is a product that you really don't want to use, right? Insurance is one thing, but you want to buy it but not use it. I'm happy when I don't get sick, and therefore I'm really happy when I paid for it and I didn't get anything. But psychologically, it's an odd product in that sense. It's a product that you're happiest when you don't use it. So that's one problem, clearly. It's a bizarre product. It's one unique kind of product, which, usually we're happy when we get what we paid for. Here's when you're happy when you don't get what you paid for. And that makes it difficult. Second thing, I think, is they don't trust the insurance company. And there's some evidence that when the insurance company comes through an NGO, which people know and like, they're more willing to buy it. So there's some trust element there. But I think there's something else that I think is difficult. So think of catastrophic health insurance. I'm going to whenever you get really sick, so a theory is that this MFI was offering catastrophic health insurance. The theory was very simple. Nobody gets a heart attack on purpose. Nobody gets cancer on purpose. So let's just insure those things. That was okay. The theory seemed to work. Problem is, people also die from other things. Like they get they get some, their stomach hurts, and they probably got an infection and died. That's not covered by the insurance because, in general, it's only particular conditions that are covered. People don't understand why, one thing that is covered and another thing isn't. And if you explain that, well, there's more moral hazard in this one than that one, then that's too hard to explain. So basically, insurance products, out of the necessity of protecting the insurance organization from adverse selection and moral hazard, tend to be incomplete. They cover only a few conditions. People don't understand those conditions. So there was this big fight with this MFI we worked with. They got into this big fight with a group of women who were very upset because one of their friends' husband died. He died at home. He suddenly got sick and died. When he got sick, she went to the local doctor and brought like the doctor recommended a whole bunch of medication, expensive medication, which was useless because the doctor, I think, was bad. The insurance company said, this is not a covered condition. We can't pay for it because it was not covered, in fact. The insurance company in this particular case said, we'll only cover conditions that require hospitalization. And we'll only pay if you have been hospitalized. That's a very good way to check whether people are making up conditions or not. So they had imposed this hospitalization condition, which was to protect them. But then these people said, look, her husband died. How could it be worse? You have to pay. So there was a big fight. The insurance company refused to pay. As a result, all of them quit the MFI. So, just the nature of the product is difficult. I think there's one final psychological element which I think is also difficult, which is catastrophic insurance is particularly a product that makes you value it when you think about your own death or something really bad. People don't like thinking about those things. So it's very hard to get people to be rational about buying a product that involves contemplating really awful things happening to you. So a lot of people are both, I think, a little bit maybe they're a little bit superstitious about it. So they don't really like taking on this risk, thinking about these states of awful things happening. So if you're going to only insure awful things, like when the crop completely dries up, that's not what people want to think about. So that's another reason why. But in general, we don't fully understand why people aren't buying these products, but they aren't buying them. Okay, so if there's no question, I'll stop here. Even if and we'll continue next time.